For a long, long time, some of the most famous stories ever told were just that, stories. Words on a page. But then this new science, archaeology, came along. And suddenly it was like forgotten cities and lost kings started waking up from a long sleep. So today, we're going to see exactly how archaeology took these ancient texts and turned them from just words into a real, living, breathing world. I mean, really think about that. For most of history, these accounts just kind of floated in space. You had stories about epic battles, incredible temples, but they were all just ideas. There was no physical thing you could point to in our world. They were like memories without a place to live. And that was the question that lit a fire under the first explorers. This wasn't just about being curious. It was a huge, huge challenge. Could they actually find the real places buried under thousands of years of sand and dirt? Could they literally hold a piece of these stories in their hands? Answering that, well, it was going to change everything. So for these early history detectives, the job ahead of them was just massive. Because for a very long time, the places mentioned in these texts weren't really places at all. They were much closer to myths. Think about a place like Solomon's Temple or the city of Gezer. You couldn't just look them up on a map, right? Their names only existed on dusty old bookshelves. They were legends, not destinations you could actually travel to. Finding them would be like finding a whole new chapter of the human story that everyone thought was lost for good. So the challenge was really like standing in front of two gigantic locked doors. Behind door number one, you got the cities themselves, buried under tons of earth. But even if you could somehow get that door open, you'd find a second one right behind it, the languages. All these strange symbols that at the time, nobody on the entire planet knew how to read. To solve a mystery this big, they needed keys. And the keys, it turned out, were the lost languages themselves. The big breakthrough came from somewhere nobody expected, and honestly, it changed the game forever. And here it is, the Rosetta Stone. I mean, look at this thing. Who would have thought that this slab of rock, found completely by accident by one of Napoleon's soldiers, would end up being the master key to unlocking ancient Egypt? It was the thing that would finally break thousands of years of silence. And the way they figured it out was just pure detective work. So scholars could read the ancient Greek part. That was their starting point. They'd find a royal name they already knew, like Ptolemy, and then they'd carefully match the sounds of that name, Ptollmys, to the mystery hieroglyphs right above it. It was genius, and piece by piece, an entire lost language came back to life. And get this, it wasn't just happening in Egypt. Way over in Mesopotamia, a British army officer named Henry Rawlinson was literally risking his life climbing up this massive cliff face to copy down the Behistun Inscription. His insane dedication is what unlocked cuneiform, that wedge-shaped writing, which opened up the whole world of Assyria and Babylonia. So the codes were cracked. For the first time, history could speak again. Archaeologists could actually read the names being carved on these ancient monuments. And that meant they could finally start looking for people from the Bible, not just as characters in a story, but as figures in actual, readable history. So let's take this one Assyrian king. In all of recorded history, this guy was basically a ghost. He was mentioned just one time, in one verse of the Bible, and that was it. Nowhere else. For all anyone knew, he might not have even been real. His entire existence was hanging by a single thread. But then, archaeology found him. This forgotten king was Sargon II, and archaeologists unearthed his massive, spectacular palace in what is now Iraq. All of a sudden, that one single lonely line from an ancient text was real. It was this incredible moment where ancient words and modern science came together. But archaeology also started showing us that history is, well, it's complicated. Take the Mesha stele. It talks about a war that's also in the Bible, but this time it's from the other side's point of view. And here's the crazy part. Both sides claim they won. It's the perfect example of how history is almost never a simple one-sided story. There's always another perspective. Okay, but history isn't just about kings and famous battles, right? What about regular people? What was their life like? Well, that's where archaeology is like putting together a giant puzzle, piece by tiny piece. And if you're looking for the ultimate treasure chest of clues, you go to Egypt. The secret was its climate. That super dry desert air basically acted like a time capsule. It preserved all this fragile stuff, like papyrus documents, even wooden tools, that would have just rotted away and disappeared anywhere else on Earth. So when archaeologists started digging up places like the ancient city of Gezer, all the little puzzle pieces of daily life started showing up. You've got these tiny houses all packed in close together, narrow little alleys winding between them, these huge cisterns they built to collect rainwater, and the simple farm tools they used every single day. You put it all together and you start to see this vibrant, bustling city come back to life. But, sometimes the discoveries are pretty disturbing. In some of these ancient homes, archaeologists found the remains of children and even adults who'd been sacrificed and buried in the foundations. It's a really chilling find, and it's a powerful reminder of just how profoundly different their spiritual world could be from our own. Okay, so let's pull all of this together. What does all of this really mean? What was the true impact of these discoveries? How did they completely change how we see the past? And this really gets to the heart of it. The biggest gift of archaeology wasn't about playing a game of fact or fiction with the text. It wasn't about proving it right or proving it wrong. Its greatest contribution was to show us the world, the culture, the politics, the real life that was going on when these stories were first being told. Really, it's like this. Archaeology took what was a flat, black and white picture and turned it into full-color 3D. Because of these discoveries, stories that felt like far-off myths were suddenly about real people. People who laughed and cried and lived and died, just like we do. It made it human. So, in the end, archaeology gives us a new set of eyes to see the past. And it leaves us with one last question to think about. And this goes way beyond just ancient texts. For any story you read from anywhere in the world, how does learning about the world around that story, the context, the culture, the reality, change the way you understand the story itself?